very, very simple elementary analysis published in that. It's very simple.
About like profiting from mobile malware. So this year I found a lot of proofs that, for example, only in Russia, cybercriminals who are specialized only in mobile malware, they earn not like thousands of dollars, they earn hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. So there are a lot of organized groups of cybercriminals who are specializing on creating very primitive Java to micro-edition Trojans, which are like using only like social engineering tricks in order to, for example, infect user or force user to install these malicious applications. And such techniques are still working. There's no need, for example, for cyber criminals in Russia to create like very sophisticated malicious applications for mobile platforms. They just need to use only social engineering tricks in order to infect as many people as they can. And there are some proofs that cyber criminals are not like, they earn a lot of money today.
Now, I agree with Jose on the fact that it's a market share issue. I do find it hard to believe that there would be lots of attacks on mobile and Mac and other smaller platforms that we are missing. Possible, but I just find it hard to believe. However, the market share issue is really, it's easy to see actually if you look at it from the point of view of the organized criminal gangs who make most of their money with traditional Windows malware. When we speak about Windows malware, actually most of the malware we see is actually Windows XP malware. Quite a big part of it requires admin rights, works fine on Windows XP. You take it to Windows 7, you get prompts, you get bugs, you get crashes. Sure, there's Windows 7 specific malware, even Windows 7 64 rootkits are out there. But most of the stuff really is pretty like simple, old school Windows XP specific, which is obvious when you look at the market shares. 62% of the world's computers run Windows XP. Windows XP is 9 years old. Everybody runs Windows XP as admin, patching is what it is.
It's also EOL. I think it's also end of life.
Yes, SP2.
SP2.
Yeah, and that's
which is just boggles mind. Again, think about it from the point of view of the attackers. Like, why on earth would they think for a second target any other platform than Windows XP, which is by far the easiest target, by far the largest target. Windows Vista 12% market share, Windows 7 30% market share, and then Mac 2.5%, something like that. So obviously they go after the easy big target, and as long as XP is the big
appreciate that I still retain my sense of relief stroke surprise. The guys have not yet. But it's kind of one wonders how we will. A lot of Windows users, whatever anyone may say, have learned to change their behavior and do care much more these days. And so there is a dwindling pool of easy victims. Anyone who's bought a laptop recently probably isn't running XP on it, for example, and is probably taking some basic security precautions, which actually deal with the vast majority of the threat very easily. But it seems particularly Mac and smartphone users are sort of in denial about that. We have a closed platform with some kind of code signing, or you can only shop at the company store, therefore everything will be okay, even though historically we know that to be utterly false. So it does seem that I do suspect that there are many users of non-Windows devices who are sort of living on borrowed time. And it's hard to say that without sounding like a hyperbolist. But if I were a cybercriminal, I'd be kind of doing my research now, so I could be the first guy to, when things shift, to...
Well, they're already there, is what Dennis is saying, right? I'm saying too.
A lot of guys are...
Yeah, but not on the scale I would have expected. And
carrying on where it's
dismissive.
Moving to a mobile perspective, as what Nico pointed out, propagation, both supply and demand for malware is because of the dominance of any particular platform, which is why there are more Windows-based malware than anything else. But in the mobile space, you see the same thing happening, given the fact that we have multiple platforms: Android, iOS, Symbian, CE.
I reckon one of the things that I think, Nico, you know much more about Symbian than I do. One of the things that mitigated against Symbian malware is that the platform was so fragmented, and every vendor, CE very much the same, every vendor picks and chooses their own bits of libraries, their own build of the operating system. And another problem with creating Symbian malware, if you have ever tried, for example, for S60R2, if you've ever tried to create yourself a build environment in which you can build a program, it takes you about a month of reading the most arcane documentation, downloading gigabytes of stuff. So they've sort of kind of won by complexity and obscurity in some ways, rather than by proper design and reasonable attention to
That works for Symbian. And
Yeah.
you know, iPhone is more closed and that kind of thing. But for Android, it's wide open. And I don't know, it's because it was released a couple of days ago, Windows 7 Mobile. But for Android, it's like Windows all over again, right? It's easy, it's accessible. It's got very few security checks in it. It's complete crap for security. It's going to be an increasing number of devices. Got tremendously growing market share. It's going to be.
My understanding with Android, there is still quite a bit of fragmentation though. But the pace of change is so fast that you'll buy a device and now it's not supported, and the version of the operating system was a weird fork in the tree which kind of never came to anything.
Yeah.
And I guess what Windows XP has done over its sort of long and cheerful life is, despite all the differences between hardware and stuff, actually everything's surprisingly compatible with everything else. Driver and user level.
And this is all due in part to the PC Maker announcement, right? Microsoft said this is a reference implementation built to this so we can all be happy, and it worked, right? So we're probably going to see it from mobile, especially Android having all these as you correctly analyze problems with regards to doesn't work on this phone, you have to wait 3 months or 6 months or whatever for this vendor, everybody's upset. But at the same time, applications, a lot of applications work across those different versions, across these different platforms, where Android already works. Malware and spyware and infect programs easily fit in.
However, market shares still do matter, even in mobile space. Although, of course, it's a bit harder to actually draw any big conclusions because the total amount of mobile malware is still, we have 500 and something mobile phone malware families with a few thousand different actual samples which we are detecting. So, but even though out of those, 90% or almost 90% of the cases we've seen are Symbian, because Symbian is the gorilla. They have over 40% of the smartphone market share. And of course, it is much more fragmented than our computer operating systems. But then again, we have to remember there's much more phones on the planet than computers. So even one of those fragmented spaces is actually fairly large.
Plus, you also get for free regionalization, localization, people not going to the same bank or the same shops or whatever.
One more point about market share in case of mobile platforms. So we have Symbian, we have Windows Mobile, we have iPhone, Android, but we forgot about simple mobile phones. But today, almost all simple mobile phones, no smartphone, they support Java to micro edition technology. Well, primitive Java to ME applications like mostly games, and Symbian smartphones also support such technology. Windows Mobile smartphones also, they also support such technology. So that's why, for example, in Russia, we see that cybercriminals, they also have no major targeting platform like Windows in case of mobile operating systems. So that's why cybercriminals in Russia are concentrating on creating Java 2.me malicious applications. So they can target Symbian smartphones, they can target Windows Mobile smartphones, and they can target simple mobile phones. For example, we can protect Symbian smartphones, we can protect Windows Mobile smartphones, but we almost can't do anything with the protection of simple mobile phones because it's impossible to create an antivirus for
It's also pretty hard for, and I don't like this, not because I work for a company we love to sell this software, but I just have a kind of sort of intellectual objection to it. It seems particularly with operating system like we have on the iPhone, that there's basically no opportunity for an ISV, independent software vendor, to be innovative anywhere else except in some kind of cocoon sort of virtual machine environment. So Microsoft, bless their hearts, at least they have allowed and welcomed independent software vendors into kernel land. And in fact, we taught them much of what they know about interoperation of drivers, and that's why the Bugfest started, mainly due to the anti-malware industry, I believe. But on mobile phones, like BlackBerry in particular, and iPhone, it's very hard to bring something new and innovative because St. Steve of Cupertino has already protected you. And it's okay that your iPhone that every iPhone in the world has the same well-known 6-character dictionary root password because the root password isn't needed for anything. And so I think that's something which, to me, mitigates against a sort of positive security revolution in mobile space, is that the vendors have gone, this is so safe, so secure, it's such a